It's James Steinhubel, TVU on the Culture Channel, and we have Shari Strachan, Director of the Musée Heritage Museum, part of the Arts and Heritage Foundation of St. Albert. How are you doing today, Shari?
I'm good. How are you?
Very well, very well. Thank you so kindly for inviting us in today. It just be to start with, can you give a little bit of background on the museum, the foundation, and who you are, so we can and get a context going here?
Yeah, actually, this is the Musée Heritage Museum. We're located in St. Albert Place, in the City Hall building in St. Albert. The foundation has been around since 2001, 2002, and I've worked with the foundation for about 16 years now. I started as a program educator, and then I became a program manager, and then the director about 6 or 7 years ago now.
That's good. That's
So
good.
our mandate is to create and share exceptional arts and heritage experiences with our community. And with COVID and our current situation, we're working really hard to continue to do that, even though we can't be in this space with our students that pre-book programs for schools and things like that. We're still trying to support teachers and our community and come up with activities that families can do without coming to our spaces.
Now you had a very interesting exhibit that you've put together, and now so we'll talk a little bit about that, and then also how it's been an exciting transition into the virtual world with that exhibit. Tell us about that.
Exciting and challenging, I think, for everyone as we learn to work online. But about a year ago and 2 months, we took down an exhibition that had been up for 3 or 4 months, and it was actually called Pandemic: A Cautionary Tale. And what we did is we told stories about our community over history that talked about the different pandemics that had come through. And part of the reason we were prompted to do that is because it was 100 years since the end of World War I and the influenza that spread across the world at that time. So here we are 101 years later, and it's happening again. It's an interesting fact that we did a lot of research and we looked at a lot of things, and we had a lot of discussions as a staff. We're a lot like a family here. And we came to the conclusion even a year ago that this was a when scenario, not an if. We knew there would be another pandemic after doing the research. None of us, though, thought it would be this year, and none of us could foresee how it would look, how quickly it might spread, that it would come here, that things would be shut down. So it's been an interesting learning experience for us as well.
And so I want to talk a little bit about the online, but before that, as we've gone into COVID and the COVID reality, and certain busyness of our lives and everything, and the simplicity and the things that were important come really into focus. What were you struck by anything in this lifelong work that you are doing with the foundation and the museum, and how important it is?
I know it's important all the time, but sometimes it really does just hit you. And as we made the transition, most of us are working remotely in our homes now. And as we started to make the transition and realize this was the reality of something we had just talked about quite recently, it strikes me that history has a lot to tell us, and we can definitely continue to learn from history. And often we forget that. People still had to eat and take care of their families and educate themselves 100 years ago, 200 years ago, 300 years ago. And now we're getting back to that. What basic needs do we need, and how are we going to do that? And more importantly, how do we help each other through this? You keep hearing, we're all in this together, and we truly are, but how do we go beyond just saying it and truly helping one another and finding ways we can do that with the restrictions that are on us currently?
So now the Pandemic: A Cautionary Tale, the curated and archived collection, you've opened that up now, and you're inviting the public to submit. What are you doing there?
what we've done is we've put the exhibition online. So it's been digitized and it's online at our website.
Mhm.
And if you go on to our website and find the banner and just click on it that says pandemic, there's also a little, you can click another button that says, tell us your submissions. And what we're asking people to do is now add to the exhibition and extend the exhibition and tell us how this pandemic is affecting you and your family and friends, how it's changed your life, what things you're doing, and even as you mentioned earlier, how it's made you realize what really is important in life for yourself and for others, and what things you've changed that you might continue forward doing or not doing because of what you're living through at the moment. You're living through history, and we want to record that. The other part of this is that often when we gather information or we try to research information, there's a lot of information about those who were in power, like kings and queens. We have lots of records of political things that happen, but we don't always have the ordinary person's story. An odd diary here and there with detail, but we don't often hear what the general populace is doing or was doing during major events like this. So we want to collect that for ourselves now to share, but also for the future. In 100 years, somebody might be looking at this and saying, wow, how did they survive or what did they do?
Mm-hmm. What an awesome invitation to the public in this time when we all can create our own media, but to and it'll always be there, but out in very random. But to have it part of an exhibition that is so meaningful. Let You've also got a Vino Vipulan and Theraja with you. He's the archivist,
Yes.
and maybe you guys take us on a quick tour of what's on display in the museum right now, if you don't mind.
Yeah, so we have our museum is not a large museum, but we have a permanent gallery or a history gallery that we change up quite regularly. So we just before this all hit, it was February and it was Black History Month. So this year we had displays about Black history and worked with some of the descendants groups here in town to put on a program and have an event here in our community. So this talks about the Black history in Alberta. Again, really interesting history that most people have no idea about. All the communities where descendants of slaves had come into Alberta and lived and created community together. And then we just have spaces that we change up. There's a space here that's about communication. This is a space the kids love to come and look at phones. All of these old phones, including a pay phone. Grandparents will ask their children if they know or the grandchildren if they know what this is, and they really don't. They don't know how to use it. So it's a lot of fun to watch that. We also have an area where we talk about immigration in our community right now. And over here is sort of Vino's special space where he talks about archives, how they're used, how we use them, how we collect things, how we care for things. And actually you'll see the bugs on the wall there, how we save our archives from floods and pests and things like that. Mm-hmm. And then we go back and look a little further back in St. Albert's history here. And this is some of the building, the mission history that we had, our early history that we talk about here with building pieces. And then we actually have a really, really special exhibition that we put up a couple years ago when we're growing, because it's new information about something old that we didn't always talk about. So we have a section here that talks about residential schooling, which is important in our community because we had 2 residential schools. And we have survivors still alive today who went to these schools. So we definitely have that here. And then we walk into the other space where the pandemic exhibition would have been. We have a small education space where we have children come in and do school programs. We have 6,000 or 7,000 children that come through here every year. And then this space now has an exhibition on called Keeping the Peace, which is about policing history in our community. But this is where the pandemic exhibition was last year.
Mm-hmm. And now today you have a police exhibit again.
And that was supposed to actually come down this week so we could put up a butterfly exhibition for Children's Festival. Yeah. But we're going to keep it up and keep it through the summer now.
Yeah.
hoping that we can be open at some point.
But again, but
This
again, so
exhibition.
again, so wise and so pertinent to our lives right now as Canadians. So, maybe can we just have a minute with Vino? And I think that it's important for people to meet the man and to get a sense of his in-depth training.
Yeah, absolutely.
Vino,
Let's walk back on over to the archive space, and
yeah,
because that's his space.
yes, that's awesome. I thank you so
I will
kindly.
take on.
The videography duties.
Yes,
Vino.
Vino, he's coming. He's just pulling. He's just actually going to pull up some panels from our exhibition last year. So you'll
Okay,
see these colors reflected online as well. But
good
the
idea.
stories, the important stories that we're told.
Yes, good idea. Good
There's
idea.
Vino.
Okay.
Can we see Vino?
There you are, Vino. How are you doing, sir? Good, good, good. Just give people a little bit of a quick rundown of your education and experience and what's brought you to the Musée Heritage.
Sure. My experience was initially actually computer science, and I best for climate science. And then I came to BBC now in 2012. So I've been here for 6 years.
Okay, excellent, excellent. Now we're having a little bit of trouble with the audio.
Can you hear me better now?
Yeah, yeah. So you have 2 degrees, don't you? From what I've seen online
My first degree was in computer science, and then I did grad school in archival science.
in archival science. So you're very sophisticated, well educated, and very involved. Looking on the website, there's pictures of you, going through documents that look like on old farm sites, and you're very serious about your profession and your craft. So what are you expecting as the people are submitting their pictures and their articles and their videos into the how you've reopened the pandemic cautionary tale as an online exhibit now? What are you expecting to see?
Right. We've been open call outs. So we're hoping to get different variety of things that can be creative about what they want to give to us, photographs, stories, videos. And our hope is to have all this kind of collect together, become an archive collection about this experience of the pandemic itself right now. And then we want to eventually share that with other people, either online or eventually in the future.
Now I'm going to ask you the same question because you're very well trained. You have a science background. You guys put your mind to the pandemic, a cautionary tale. So you were applying some very sophisticated scientific approaches on both the science side and the archive side. What struck you about the immediate pertinence of the pandemic cautionary tale and how it emerged in the community, the nation, and the world?
I'm sorry, can you repeat yourself? I'm just getting a little.
Yeah, I'm just saying what struck you, from your professional insight and your involvement in the pandemic, a cautionary tale, and how pertinent it was. Did it surprise you of how your training and sciences um, allowed you to archive a collection that was so pertinent, or like how did you receive that? The effect of the pandemic cautionary tale, and then the pandemic that we're in right now.
Well, I'll recap what Shari said, and that's what I feel, that history repeats itself, and people don't realize that things can repeat itself again, and how we look back on what we did before can help us now again. So that's something people are kind of coming back to, I guess, right now. Technology-wise, I think we're finding that the way we communicate and travel is a lot different than it was before, and so that is affecting this new pandemic differently than maybe what it was before. So there are clear differences now, but we're seeing that the way people kind of gather together, kind of cope with this is going to be probably similar to what before.
Mm-hmm. Interesting. I read a quote, and it was a philosopher from the 1800s, and I don't remember which one, and he said, "The only thing that we learn from history is that we don't learn from history." But I think that you guys have done, an amazing job. You're doing an amazing work, and it's a very significant work. And like Shari said, 10 years, 20 years, 50 years, 100 years, 200 years from now, it it's going to be its importance will remain. So it's an amazing opportunity for citizens to have a voice in history. So thank you, sir. Shari, I wanted to, if we can get Shari back on the.
Yeah.
I wanted to give you. I just wanted to give you a moment. As someone who's a proven community member, a community builder, someone who has faced, like for what you guys have put together there when you first started. If you knew what you would have now from back then, you probably wouldn't believe it. So someone who's built that, now our community, is in the situation that we're in. What words of wisdom and knowledge can you share that would be helpful at this time?
Wisdom. Well, as soon as the city closed our building and those signs went up on our door that said you can't go in due to the virus, we began thinking back to that research we had done and thinking, here is that reality that we sort of lightly spoke about a year ago. We have this information, we have this history. How can this help our community, and how can this help people online to learn more and understand? I did get a response from someone in our community yesterday who went through and read the exhibition. And the thing she said to me, which I found really interesting, is that she, after reading that this has happened many, many times, and as hard as it is, people survive and they move on and life changes, but it goes forward, that she was oddly reassured with the history she wrote. And I thought that was a really interesting comment about the information that we've put online. And I'm hoping that's what other people will get from it as well. In some way, knowing this is not the first time, knowing there is the great unknown of what comes next for us, but we know there is a next. And it may be hard, but moving forward, I thought that was a really great comment, that this could be reassuring to know what has happened in the past as we move forward together in the future.
That's so good. Okay, one more time. How do people connect with this, Shari? This is so good.
Yeah, so go to museheritage.ca. That's our website. And there's a banner right at the top that says Pandemic, a Cautionary Tale. And you just press on that, click on that, and it'll take you straight to the exhibition, read through the exhibition, and then find the button that says, hey, submit. We want to know what you're doing and how you're doing and what's changed in your life. And we truly, truly want to support our community by doing this. But we really also want to hear from people.
And so it's for everybody in the capital region, you can submit?
Absolutely.
Awesome. Shari Strachan and Vino Vipulanan Theraraja. Shari's the director and Vino is the archivist from the Musée Heritage with James Steinhubel. That's me on TVU, the Culture Channel. Thank you so much, Shari.
Thank you.
Talk to you again.
Stay safe and healthy.
Thank you so kindly.